From reaction to Skate Canada labeling Alberta a no-go zone to Albertan support for a higher speed limit. Time now for tonight's politics panel. And joining us this evening, Donna Kennedy-Glans, former MLA and cabinet minister, now columnist with the National Post, and Marg McCuaig-Boyd, also a former MLA and cabinet minister. Good evening to you both. And let's begin with Canada's governing body for figure skating signaling it will stop hosting events in our province because of legislation restricting transgender athletes from participating in female-only sports. And it's prompting some division in the political sphere.
This is what organizations have warned about, and really this is an incredible hit to Alberta's economy. Tourism and sport is really important in Alberta. I think they may just be the first of many.
Skate Canada says the decision was made after reviewing Alberta's Fairness and Safety in Sport Act, saying it is unable to host events in the province while maintaining standards for safety and inclusivity. Premier Smith has responded in a statement saying, "We expect they will apologize and adjust their policies once they realize they are not only compromising the fairness and safety of their athletes, but are also offside with the international community, including the International Olympic Committee, which is moving in the same direction as Alberta." Donna, this decision by Skate Canada only applies to national and international events. It doesn't bar Alberta athletes from participating in Skate Canada competitions. But what do you make of this clash over policy between a national sporting body and the Smith government?
Some days it feels like an extension of all the other controversy between Ottawa and Alberta that takes place, and it's just one more in the long list of issues. But frankly, I find it really frustrating that we have this kind of announcement and a response from the Premier that makes it appear as though there has never been a conversation about this. It just all of a sudden landed. And you'd think that if Skate Canada, its federally funded agency, was going to do something like this, that they would have talked to this government. And it just feels like it came out of left field. Nothing's humorous about this. This is a really tough decision for Skate Canada to have made, and it looks like the federal government is endorsing their decision in a very kind of a not so obvious way. But it's, is it their frustration with the use of the notwithstanding clause? Is it their frustration with a decision that kind of goes in the direction that the IOC is already headed? Did Alberta get ahead of the feds again? It just feels like it's stuck in a lot of other issues that have very little to do with the issue at hand. And I think sometimes we have to spend a lot of energy to peel away all the layers to get to what the real issue is. And in the meantime, hosts of sporting events are going to be affected by this.
Marg, there aren't any Skate Canada events scheduled for Alberta, but what kind of a spotlight do you feel this organization is putting on our province?
Well, they're certainly calling attention to, the bill that was recently passed. And I agree with Raki that this is probably the beginning of a number that are going to occur based on the bill. And again, with using the notwithstanding clause, they don't have the courts to work with to, clarify what each organization, has in their mandate for fairness. So I think Skate Canada is within their rights to do this, and I predict there'll be others, maybe curling or ladies hockey.
Donna, could a situation like this have been avoided had the government not invoked the notwithstanding clause, allowed the legislation to be tested by the courts?
I don't know. I think even if they had not used the notwithstanding clause and gone ahead with this legislation, we would probably still be in this situation where Skate Canada did exactly what it's doing today. The litigation and reference to the court is now precluded because of the use of the notwithstanding clause. But we have this great discord within Canada, a culture war, so to speak. And it just feels like this is not a petty issue. I'm not trivializing the issue, and I think for female athletes, it's a very significant issue. But it's just we're focused a lot of energy on things that seem to swirl around, and we don't get to the essence of the issue. And I think, by focusing on notwithstanding clauses and who's got the right to do this and who's got the right to lead, we lose sight of the actual issue here. And what's the message to young female skaters? I mean, it's political mayhem, and the IOC is trying to get out of that kind of situation. They've been in it before. Remember the Paris Olympics and the boxing? I mean, they need to figure out a clearer line of sight, all of them. It's incumbent on all of them. We shouldn't be reading about this in the paper. It should be conversations that happen quietly by decision makers behind the scenes.
All right. Next up, paving the way to higher speed limits. Nearly 60,000 Albertans are said to have responded to a government survey on increasing the speed limit to 120 kilometers an hour on certain highways. Transportation Minister Devin Dreeshen says 68% support the move and that 90% support restricting commercial trucks from using certain lanes. The minister says the government will choose rural divided highways now for a trial run that'll happen next year. Marg, safe to say this is a successful survey where the Smith government is concerned. What do you make of the outcome?
Well, I took that survey and I was, I guess, in the minority as far as I don't agree with it. For example, the QE2 speeding up. It already is about 120 to 130. So I'm not sure where it's going to go. I did see in the survey that many agreed with regulating trucks on some of the divided highways, which I do agree with. So I guess we'll see where it goes. But it just seems like if you raise it to a certain limit, everybody goes faster than that again. And not sure I'm a fan.
Donna, there wasn't a hue and cry for higher speed limits when the government introduced the survey. So what do these results then accomplish from a political standpoint?
Actually, it was funny. I was thinking about that very question. And it seems like this is just one of those mundane governing things that, we don't pay much attention to because it's not fraught with culture wars and notwithstanding clauses. And I thought maybe that's just a good thing that we have something like this going on where we go, oh, they're just governing. I think it's they've labeled it as an issue for rural Albertans. Marg, you live in a rural area, so you probably can weigh in on this. But I have to say, some of the speed limits here in the cities, the ring roads, I am very pleased that they're not going to be touching those because the speeding on those roads is significant and the fatalities have been very, very bothersome. So I think the scrutiny will continue and people will have a chance to wade in, and it will be a governing question. And boring though it might be, maybe that's what we should be rewarding government for doing sometimes.
All right, time for us to take a bit of a break, but when we come back, challenges facing municipal politicians in our province. More from our politics panel in a moment. Welcome back. Lethbridge Mayor Blaine Higgin joined us off the top for a year-end conversation. Donna, we started on council deciding to write to the province with a request to close the temporary overdose prevention unit in the city. Likely to be welcome news to the Smith government. What was this say to you about maybe alignment on provincial priorities?
Oh, we're in a time of transition with the opioid, in particular, prevention centers and overdose prevention centers, and moving to, treatment, even mandatory treatment, and treatment facilities are being built. So it's a period of flux. I mean, here in Calgary, we've been told that the Sheldon Schumer Center is going to be closing, and it just feels like it's a big time of change. There's been a lot of politics on that facility in Lethbridge over the years, so I'm sure they would like to depoliticize it and just move along and make sure that the resources are there for the people who need them. And I think the government is heading in that direction. And they just, when do you let go of some things and move to the next? It's a tough time in a transition to do these things.
Marg, what kind of message do you see this sending to other municipalities, other mid-sized cities in the province?
I think municipalities around the province will be looking at this as a model of maybe the next place to go. I'm hoping that the transition for them and for others is seamless, so there's not a gap. Yeah, you know, if you're going to shut these centers down, you certainly need supports for the people. And I like the idea of that they're going to do wraparound services. I hope they just come through with it and it's not just talk.
Donna, Mayor Higgin also discussed taking a public stance on the state of online commentary and a request for respect of the incoming council post-election. Surprised to see a municipal leader feeling the need to publicly express such concerns.
Oh, I am not. I hear from people all the time who get frustrated by the discourse or lack of discourse, especially in social media space. In fact, I'm getting telephone calls from people who are saying that they're just so distraught by what they read online and the comments, as if there's immunity when you go online. So I just think our way of engaging with one another when we have different points of view has not improved. I used to write a blog called Beyond Polarity, and I gave it a pause because we're in polarity and we're pretty stuck in it. So I respect his comments and I'm worried about them too.
Marg, whether municipal, provincial, or otherwise, how necessary do you feel it is for politicians to take a stand like this, you know, to make that public call for respect?
I think more and more it's going to be incumbent on people to call it out and call it out for what it is. I admired the fact that he's reached out to some of these people and offered to meet with them, and I'm not surprised a bit that they choose just to be the keyboard warriors they are and not really want to have a good discussion. But I agree with Donna, we're in a time of clarity, and I think it's pretty important that all of us start to call it out for what it is. And I would hope at some point, some people, if who really go beyond the line, start to get charged on this.
Donna, optimism appears to be flowing in Lethbridge. So say results of a trio of local surveys, including a couple the city conducted. So are there lessons to be learned there for other Alberta cities? Is Lethbridge doing something right the rest of us need to take note of?
Well, I think starting with their mayor and his clothing choices, I think all mayors should be doing that. That very happy, fun, playful. We've got to start to look at the positives, because if you don't, you get stuck in everything that's negative. And change is hard. The transition, and particularly in mental health and addictions, is very difficult. But they've had some success. They've got amazing success. So I'm really happy to see them celebrate it. And I loved that festive jacket.
Yeah, and the tie to match. So Marg, what, other than the jacket and tie, what do you like about the road forward Lethbridge is taking? What Lethbridge City Council has on the agenda for the new year?
Yeah, well, it appears they're showing a lot of optimism and looking at what can be rather than what isn't. And I think that's important for all municipalities to look at what they are, and they might want to look at Lethbridge to see what they're doing that's maybe they can apply to themselves. But I think optimism's a key, and look at what you can be. All
right, ladies, we'll have to leave it there. Great to see you both. Appreciate your time this evening. Thank you kindly.
Merry Christmas.
To you as well.
Merry Christmas, everybody.